Hey everyone, I'm Mark Mulholland. Welcome to The Upbeat, a podcast about hope and perseverance from Kelly's Angels. I'm pleased to welcome people who are personally very special to me. We're joined by Maria Muldner, Josh Muldner, and Alexander Georgeadis. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And what we want to talk about is a couple of things. There's an upcoming event, but we want to talk about who is being honored at the upcoming event. And Maria, let's begin with you, talking about your brother Nick,
Yes.
who we lost in 2023 to cancer related to his time at 9/11. Tell me about Nick.
Oh, Nick. So Nick is my older brother, 5 years older, actually, and just a remarkable, human being. I think he knew from a really young age that he wanted to do something in law enforcement. He was always the one looking to, find the loopholes and, the tricks. So he had a long, really great career in law enforcement. As you mentioned, he was working down at Ground Zero for 13 weeks. He knew, the day that it happened that he needed to go down there. And
Volunteer? Did he volunteer to go down?
yes. And he, the stories that he tells from his time down there, just, stories that you wouldn't believe. And unfortunately, like so many others, he, got ill from the exposure to the toxins down there.
So Nick was a New York State trooper, highly decorated New York State trooper, always wanted to be in law enforcement, as you said. But let's back up a little bit. 5 years older, always looking out for his little sister, was he? Or was it just the opposite? Was there?
He was always looking out for me, but he also, was walking by him in the hallway at home, ramming me into the,
into the wall.
Into
right?
the wall.
Yeah.
He was always the one, playing jokes and, prankster. But also, the minute I, started dating somebody, he made it known to that person that they better be careful.
Is that true, John?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
He was larger than life. When I asked for permission to marry Maria, I called Alex and Sylvia, her parents, but I also called Nick and asked for his permission because that was who he was.
Yeah.
He was the big brother, idolized.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Alex, you were telling me before we started rolling why you ended up in Saratoga Springs. So this is a podcast which goes around the world potentially. So we need to point out that you were living in Connecticut, that your family is from Connecticut, but both Maria and Nick moved up here. You were still living in Connecticut with your wife. What brought you here?
Well, actually, originally I was in Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up, and then I moved to Connecticut to Pratt & Whitney Aircraft as an aircraft engine mechanic. And then after I retired, my wife unfortunately came down with breast cancer, and we started our battle. And one weekend, Nick came down and said, all the time we were growing up, he always told us there's nothing more important than family. And I said, exactly. I said, don't ever forget it. He says, okay, I won't. But he said, you need to know that I live just a few blocks from my sister Maria, and you don't have a relative in the state of Connecticut. What are you doing here? And with that, my wife looked at me with tears. And it's like, what child says, parents move here? They usually say, oh my God, my parents are moving here.
You taught him well.
And so we moved here in 2007, and it was the best thing we did. It was the best thing we did, and we had to be close to family, especially at that time. And they got to spend some valuable time with Sylvia, and she went through a 10-year battle with breast cancer. Unfortunately, lost it, and I don't need to tell you when you know the pain of losing your bride, and but it's nothing like losing a child. A parent's not made to watch their child take their first and last breath. It's just something you just can't even believe it. I still don't believe it, and but it's the reality is here, and I cry often, but it's okay.
You're persevering, you're moving forward, and you're honoring his legacy. What do you want people to know about your son?
Well, he was quite a guy. He was always the center of attraction at a party. He had made people laugh. He was just hysterical, but he was also relentless. You didn't want to be on the wrong side of him. And if you were a bad guy and he has you in his sights, you're in trouble because he's going to get you. He'll get you. And like I said, he was relentless, but caring for his family, focused, but yet the family was always his core. He was just quite a guy. He was just quite a guy.
And that's what he was fighting for. When he got sick, he was fighting for his family.
But he was always, I knew he was going to be either a lawyer or he was going to be a gangster because when he was growing up, my wife and I would tell him why he shouldn't do something, and we'd give him 1 or 2 reasons, but he'd come back at us with 10 why he should do something. And we'd look at each other, and they were actually better than the ones we just told him. It's like, and he was just, and that's the way he was his whole life. I mean, he just, his depth perception of life and was just incredible.
You both mentioned the word relentless, and is that how he approached his illness too?
Yeah.
Was he
wasn't gonna
hell
lose.
bent on beating it, right?
He was not going to
Absolutely.
lose. He told me, he said, people think that I'm tough and I can do this, but he says they don't realize that when you have a child, children, and a wife like I have, you're going to do anything to stay alive, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to fight this and I'm going to beat it. And he said, I'm mad because cancer won't come out of me and fight me with the fist, because if it came out, I'd beat it with my fists. But I can't beat it inside me.
I love that.
And but he said, if you ever came eye to eye with me, he said,
it would have no chance.
That's
it would
right.
have no chance.
So he left behind not only you guys, but also his wife Amy, his children Austin, Alexis, and Thomas. How are they all doing?
I think they, day by day,
It's a struggle.
they miss him a lot.
Terribly, and they say, and listeners of this podcast will know, we've talked about it a lot. They say grief comes in waves, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure they do as well.
So one of the things that Nick did was he wrote a letter to each of the kids and left things for them on birthdays, Christmas, like for years to come.
I love that.
So his legacy just continues.
He has a letter that I framed. It's in my bedroom. I framed it.
He wrote a letter to you, Alex?
He wrote a letter to me. Yeah.
And to Maria.
Yeah.
And Maria, yeah. And
When did you receive those?
The night he passed. Yeah.
he
told Amy.
He told Amy.
Yeah, he had pre-written it, but
What a gift that is.
Oh.
What a gift, right?
Yeah. I read it over and over.
To have that
Yeah.
foresight, he's dying.
Yeah.
This disease is ravaging him, but he still had the foresight to be thinking about you all.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well,
I
I mean,
know.
the first sentence was, if you're reading this letter, I've lost my battle with cancer, and that's how it started. And but he also said, that he thanked me for the way he was brought up, and he said, Mom, and you didn't make any mistakes. You brought me up perfect.
Wow.
I wouldn't be the person I am. And like I said, he was a tiger, but I stayed right on him. I mean, I told my bride, Sylvia, I'm not going to let this kid go to the streets. I'm going to stay with him, and what a guy he became. What a guy. And I'm not sure he would have done it on his own, but I was on his wingtip.
Well, what a powerful legacy, though. And as parents, we all hope that we're doing the right thing by our children. But to hear it and to have it in writing forever from your son that you did right by him, that's what an incredible gift that is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Josh, you're a school counselor, a
Yeah.
highly regarded school counselor here in upstate New York in Saratoga Springs. I mean, wouldn't we all want that? Wouldn't we to have?
Yes. And it's a juxtaposition, right? He's battling and he doesn't want to give up. He's fighting relentlessly, and yet at the same time he knew, like we all do as adults, that our time here is limited.
Yeah.
And he made the most out of his time here on this earth in beautiful ways. And I think oftentimes as a father myself, like I've got 3 kids of our own, what he did to leave his written word for his children, and it's every year on their birthdays, they open up a letter from him, kind of,
Goosebumps, right?
right? Think about that as a parent and what you can do for your children. And, you know, he larger than life.
Yeah. And you're honoring his legacy.
Yeah.
We should point out that he was, relentless is the word that keeps coming up, but it served him well in law enforcement.
It did.
Investigator of the Year, Trooper of the Year, honored for heroism, not only related to 9/11, but saving a life in another event as well. So you're making sure that he's never forgotten. What are you doing, Maria? Tell me about the event coming up.
So, you know, Nick's legacy really is doing good, you know, for others and, you know, putting himself last. You know, last year it was September 11th, and I was trying to find a way to channel my grief. You know, he had passed away just, you know, last April, and I was scrolling around on the internet, and I came, you know, looking for something to do to, you know, honor his legacy. And I remembered Tunnel to Towers because we had received many donations, you know, when he passed, and they had offered actually to pay off his mortgage.
That's what a wonderful organization. Tunnel to Towers
Unbelievable.
is terrific. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So I, you know, as I was scrolling around on their website, I saw become a race director. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to do it. And so I thought about, you know, where are the places that Nick loved to go? He loved Lake George. So I put in an application, and here we are. I just feel really, really blessed that we're able to do this and able to, you know, honor everything that was important to him. Tunnel to Towers is an organization that is aiming to eradicate homelessness among veterans. As I mentioned before, they pay off mortgages for first responders' families who have young children in the homes, you know, who have passed. They help catastrophically injured veterans in building smart homes for them. 95% of what they raise goes directly to families. And I just think that, you know, by being able to do this, continues to do good in the community. And, you know, we are almost at $40,000 that we've raised for this event. And
In the first year of the race.
That's unheard of. Frankly, having, you know, Kelly's Angels has a run, and to learn that $40,000 in year one, that's a pretty good testament to the hard work, and to Nick as well. I want to continue talking to you guys. I appreciate your time, but let's take a break right now to thank our underwriters, and we'll be back with more of The Upbeat, a podcast from Kelly's Angels about hope and perseverance.
Thanks to our underwriters who make it possible for Kelly's Angels to provide grants and scholarships to children facing grief, loss, and adversity. Hoffman Car Wash, a family-owned and operated business that has been serving the Albany, New York area for close to 60 years. Hoffman Car Wash offers a variety of car wash services, including exterior washes, interior cleans, and detailing. Learn more at hoffmancarwash.com. Allardyce Ace Building Supply, a leading provider of high-quality building materials and supplies in Saratoga Springs, New York. Allardyce Ace Building Supply has been serving the needs of contractors, builders, and homeowners for more than 40 years. Learn more at allardyce.com. Bob and Ann Fitch of Saratoga Springs, who have provided tremendous support to Kelly's Angels through the Bob and Ann Fitch Giving Fund. Now back to my dad's interview on the Upbeat podcast.
Welcome back to The Upbeat, a podcast about hope and perseverance from Kelly's Angels. We're talking with Maria Muldner, Josh Muldner, and Alexander Georgeadis. They have lost their loved brother, son, brother-in-law to 9/11 related cancer. He was a hero. Alex's shirt says, honoring my son, my hero, Nicholas A. Georgeadis. And he was a hero in so many regards. He helped people in need. He answered the call time and time again, respected, revered state trooper, respected, revered state police investigator, investigator of the year. And They are so kind, the Muldners and Mr. Georgeadis are so kind to join us here on The Upbeat today to talk about his legacy. And this is a podcast about hope and perseverance. How, Alex, let me start with you during this segment. How would Nick have wanted you all to persevere in his loss, knowing that he's no longer here to be here for all of you? How would he wanted his family to persevere?
Well, I mean, we in his last days, I mean, I used to go over every day and spend time with him at the house. And it was difficult watching him, what he was going through with, helping him to go to the bathroom and moving oxygen tanks and disconnecting this and that, and then getting it reconnected when we got him back, but taking my wheelchair. And I'm thinking, this guy used to be like bronze. I mean, he was like, and here I am pushing him in a wheelchair. This is, I don't know how many times I told him I don't understand this picture. I said, you should be standing here, and I should be laying there. Yeah. The picture doesn't make sense to me. And it was difficult, but it was difficult. He said, Dad, I probably can't talk much today, because we did talk a lot, and we got a lot off the table, because I told him I didn't get to finish what I wanted to tell my wife, because I never believed I could lose her. It wasn't possible. And I said, we need to clear the table. We're going to need to say anything we want to say to each other. And don't take it to heart. Don't let it tear you apart, but we need to talk. And we did, and it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. And but then he said, Dad, I can't talk much. I have to sleep. I said, Nick, that's okay. Go ahead and sleep. I said, I can sit here all day and watch you sleep. It's okay. And he'd go to sleep, and I'd just sit there and just look at him, watch him sleep, and try to fight for his next breath, because that's what it came down to.
You must be so thankful and grateful in your heart that you had a chance to talk about anything unresolved.
Oh my God, yes. It was so priceless.
Maria, did you get that opportunity as well? Did you get a chance to talk much to your brother when he was dying?
Yeah, I did. I think that part of him still wanted to protect me, as he had always done. So I think that...
that bothered him?
Yeah. He, I think, tried to keep it on the lighter side. But... thinking about just what a hero he was. One of the things we didn't mention, he was the American Cancer Society recipient for the Hero of Hope. So he actually received that the summer before he had passed away, the following April. And that night, it was like he wasn't sick. You remember that night?
He lit up?
I mean, he danced all night.
The old Nick, right?
Friends, family, and it was such a special night. Actually, I gave you some pictures from that night. And in right around the same time, he also was inducted into his, South Windsor High School Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he was a terrific athlete. That's one thing that we hadn't really talked about. You talked about his strength and his brawn, as your dad mentioned, but he was an excellent athlete, right?
Looked up to in high school. I mean, he was just revered. He was a captain of his football team. And undefeated season his senior year, went to state championships. And he, just an exceptional, relentless athlete.
And you all are persevering. It's not easy. People always say, do you move on? You don't move on from grief. You move forward. But you don't move on. And Alex, you've seen that, both losing your wife and losing Nick. You take it day by day, right?
It's very difficult. I used to go to the cemetery every day. After the Y, it's right down the street. I go to the cemetery. And it's difficult to look down, and there's your wife, and there's your son. It's like, what is life all about? So, and I keep telling him, please save me a spot, because I'm coming.
Does it make you question your faith? Has it made you question your faith?
Yes, it has. I mean, I'm still very religious. I won't turn my back on God ever. But
you ask why, right?
yeah, I said, why'd you do this? I've done everything. I'm ready. I want to be with Sylvia. I want to be reunited. Why'd you take Nick? He had so much to give yet. And he had so much, just to live for. I'm done. I'm old. I've done it all. Why? I don't understand it. But I guess he left me behind for reasons not unknown. I mean, he made me promise to take care of Amy and help her around the house if I could, and I try to do that. I love her. I love her like a daughter. I wouldn't trade her or Josh. I mean, I've always told people I have 2 children by birth and by marriage.
I love that.
And that's the way it is. And that's what I believe in.
We always like to find some way that people are persevering. Do you guys have any advice? I mean, the way that you've spoken about Nick and the way that you revere him, the loss is unimaginable, but here you are today. You're able to talk about it. What's your advice to those who are suffering through grief?
I mean, I would say, honestly, stay close to those you love. I think that this loss has brought us even closer, with our niece and nephews, and, our kids and their kids are so close. And I've gotten so close with Amy. I don't even consider her sister-in-law. She's really my sister. And I think that just, being together really helps all of us to continue to move forward and, move and.
Right. I would just say cherish each day.
Yeah.
Right? Every day's a gift. Nick would tell you that.
Yeah.
Right? Even before he was sick. I mean, he lived every day to the fullest. He loved to ride his motorcycle. He loved to drive fast cars, right? He lived every second of his life, and he passed it on to his kids. He shared that example with us. And I think I'm so proud of Maria for taking on this challenge. This is, not something she's ever done. It's not something we've ever done. But she said, how do I pass along his message of hope and for a better future? Because Nick believed in that. And that's what Maria's doing. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything you'd all like to add? Alex, if people have one takeaway about your son, what would you like that to be?
My wife and I used to talk a lot, and of course, like I said, she was fighting breast cancer, and we would talk, and I'd say, I said, I'm dying every day. We're dying every day. And she said, you may be dying every day. She said, I'm living every day. And I said, and I never forgot that line.
Yeah.
And I told Nick that line too. I said, Nick, you got to be strong and positive. Okay, you want to think the odds are against you? Go ahead and think that, but you got to keep fighting because you can't beat this. You can't win this battle.
No.
You got to be strong.
Don't let a prognosis determine how you live, right?
Well, and he would say, he coached. He coached. That was one of his greatest joys, was coaching, Tom's teams. And he would say that any day that I don't make it out onto this field is the day that cancer has won, and I'm not going to let it win. And so he would be out there no matter how he felt.
And he should have been home in bed.
Yeah.
He should have been home in bed. And he was on that field.
Yeah.
And they won 3 state championships in a row, that baseball team.
That in itself is a lesson in perseverance. Anything any of you would like to add?
We miss him every day. And I know you know what that's like when you just miss the person who brought joy to your life and brought laughter. And he would come into the room and tell stories, and
I can see how the two of you, based on what you've told me, I can see how the two of you in particular, Josh, would hit it off.
Yes. Oh, he and I would just talk, and it was great.
Yeah.
We miss him dearly.
We the funny cards that, oh gosh, I miss that so much on my birthday. Those cards that I would get. Oh.
The pranks.
Yeah.
We still laugh. He was a huge Red Sox fan. I'm a big Yankee fan. He would come to the house and drop off like a David Ortiz picture and hide it around the house somewhere. The kids still laugh about that. So he lives in our stories, And I hope, I love your podcast is amazing because I think it spreads hope to other people. Your organization is amazing, helping families, who've lost someone that they care about deeply. And I just think that's what we all got to do together.
Yeah,
Spread hope.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the thing must say is that when the day comes that people stop talking about those that passed away, that's the day they're gone. And I try not to let that happen. And in fact, if I see it's not happening, I'll bring my wife's name up, or I'll bring Nick's name up, and then people start talking, and I know they're still here, they're with me, and I know they're here. And
This has been wonderful, and I appreciate you opening up and sharing about Nick, and I wish you the great success with all you do to honor his legacy going forward. Thanks for sharing Nick's story. Thanks for being guests on The Upbeat. And thank you to everyone who's listening, and I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast. You can listen to it wherever you get good podcasts. I'm Mark Mulholland. Until next time, stay on The Upbeat.
If you enjoy The Upbeat, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have topics you'd like us to cover on The Upbeat, please send your ideas to theupbeatpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. On behalf of the volunteer board of Kelly's Angels and the families we help who are facing life-threatening conditions, thank you for listening to The Upbeat.
Nice job, McKenna Rose.
Thanks, Dad. You too.